Hello and welcome to Microsoft Hates Greg. My name is Greg Deckler, and sometimes you just have to I just be amazed by Microsoft's marketing department, right? The sheer moxie as well as coupled with like the sheer incompetence sometimes it's an interesting mix. And so we're going to talk about that in relation to the Microsoft's recent announcement of they're unifying the data mart with Fabric Data Warehouse. Now this is a particular interest to me because it's my personal theory that the data mart is what caused Fabric, right? It's Power BI when they strayed into and created the data mart. The Synapse people got all like, "Oh my, hey, Chris just created a data warehouse. They're competing," and it causes all this conflict. If you want to see, like, I'll link it in the as the next video in this one. It's the Fabric lore video, right? It goes through it in this in detail, explains how Fabric came about. And it was because of the data mart, in my opinion. And yes, I made it after Fabric came out. I made a Datamart video where it's like the Datamart's probably safe for the time being, as long as Power BI Premium, right? They won't rip it out of even though it's still a preview feature. I don't think it ever made it to GA. But like the minute that Microsoft killed off the premium SKUs, right? The writing was on the wall that Datamarts were dead at that point. But no, they're not dead. According to Microsoft's marketing department, they're unifying them with the data warehouse. And typically, if you think of the word unification, you're taking the best of both worlds, right, and combining them into a new thing, right? That's how unification typically works. That is not what is going on here. So let's go ahead and dig into this. So it blah 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 2022 they announced the preview of data marts, and they got, again, Microsoft, they write all the reasons for unification even though it's not unification, people. Okay, we're going to get into that in a minute. They fundamentally do not understand the English language if they are using unification incorrectly. Okay, that's how dumb Microsoft's marketing department is. They write all this copy that nobody's going to read. Everybody's going to skip down to here. Basically, they're killing off data marts. That's what's happening. Data marts, you're not going to be able to create them as of June 2025, right? June 1st, so coming up here pretty quickly. They gave everybody a whole month's notice on this, or less than a month's notice, right? And basically, you have to manually migrate it, right? Or use this half-assed script that they came up with, right? Right? So basically, data marts are dead. There is no such thing as unification. They are being wholly migrated to data warehouses in Fabric, okay? And this whole data, well, we'll get into the whole parallel worlds, stuff here in a minute. But yeah, so they don't give you any kind of easy migration path, right? Where you can just like, oh, right click my data mart and move it to a data warehouse, right? No, it's not nearly that easy. They give you like a couple half-ass scripts, right? So one is a PowerShell script to kind of create the schema and the tables from your data mart into the data warehouse. And then you gotta use this Python notebook, right, in order to get the data over and all of that sort of thing. But the actual, data ingestion is not does not come with any of these scripts. It's totally manual. You have to recreate it all, right? But this is for your benefit, right? This is for your benefit as it now is decoupled, allowing you greater flexibility of options across. No, I just want my damn shit to work, right? That's what I want. I don't want the flexibility of options. If I wanted that, then I would go ahead and do that myself, right? Give me the stuff, bring it on over just as it is. And then if I want to switch it to something else, then I can do that, right? I have the flexibility already. You not migrating it does not add a single benefit to me whatsoever. So, oh my God, just the sheer stupidity around all of this. But this is par for the course for Microsoft in the enterprise data space, right? If there is one truism that is, absolutely true in the Microsoft enterprise data space, is that if you invest in Microsoft's enterprise data space, you will have to manually migrate shit, soon. Okay, because it's never constant, right? Azure SQL Data Warehouse, right? They're like, oh, throw that away. Now we have this. Oh, throw that away. Now we have this. They're like Synapse. Like, there's no easy migration path for stuff in Synapse into Fabric, right? Oh, you got to throw it all away, rebuild it here, right? Same thing with data marts. They're just continuing the narrative, and that is the who would want to invest. Like, I'm going to spend millions of dollars to invest in a enterprise data solution, right? Why would I invest in a tech, over a decade or decade and a half has consistently proven that they're just going to throw that shit away and reinvent it, and then I have to manually move all my stuff, right? Who in their right mind would invest in that, right? That Databricks hasn't gone through that. Snowflake hasn't gone through that. If you invested in those companies, when they first started up, you're still using that same stuff, right? It's improved incrementally, right? And they've added new features, functionality, but you haven't had to like just lift and shift stuff from one thing to the next. That's what you have to do in Microsoft's world. That is the one truism in Microsoft, in the Microsoft Enterprise Data world, is that if you invest in it, you will have to redo it again and again and again. And that's a dumb thing to sign up for, quite honestly. Which then kind of brings me to what I think is the parallel worlds. Like, what if we imagine that Fabric never existed? Okay, and that Datamarts went on to become GA, right? There's not one element of Fabric that couldn't have been implemented in Power BI without calling it Fabric, right? Without basically scrapping everything and then, saying, oh, Synapse is dead, you can use it, but it's going away, people, and then causing all the mass confusion that Fabric caused with Power BI. Like, why, in another world somewhere, right? In another parallel world, Microsoft didn't make that stupid ass decision, right? They didn't cause mass confusion among their populace. What they did was they just leveraged their Power BI user base, and they slowly built in data warehousing and lakehouse functionality and all this other stuff into Power BI without ever rebranding it. And I bet their numbers would be far greater in terms of adoption today than what we have in this world where Fabric exists, right? Because all Fabric has had for the last 2 years, outside of a few, well, I'm not going to use any adjective to describe them, a few MVPs, right? That have shown have consistently had nothing but positive press. Outside of those people, there's not been a single bit of positive press for Fabric that I can really find out there. It's overwhelmingly negative, and for good reason. Like Microsoft, it's obvious Microsoft rushed it out the door without, with all kinds of bugs and feature functionality missing and everything else. So it's been nothing but bad press for 2 years, right? How much better would it have been if they wouldn't have done something that stupid, right? Just slowly, like over the last 2 years, they could have added data marts, they could have added data warehousing, they could have added lake houses, they could have added all this stuff without causing any of the confusion, without causing any of the negative bad press, right? And they'd be miles ahead from where they are today. So why does Microsoft do stupid shit? Who knows? But they do. And it makes for good content. So there you have it. Data marts are dead. They're not being unified with anything. They're being unified with a grave. There you go. That's all I had for this video. Hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you next time.